Sitaram, and a pleasant good morning to all of our viewers and listeners, and welcome to another edition of the program Addiction and Recovery. I am your moderator this morning, Jason Kalu. Join me as we welcome the host of the program to Addiction and Recovery, Mr. Ramnaresh Dwarka. Sitaram, please, sir.
I'm Jason. It's indeed a privilege and a pleasure to be here again this morning to speak to all our brothers and sisters, both locally in Trinidad and Tobago and worldwide. Let me join with you in welcoming all of them to this, our regular weekly feature on alcoholism and drug addiction. And I would like to let our listeners and those who are following us online to know this is an interactive program. They can call during the program if they have questions or comments, or they can always get in touch with me at the number described on the screen, that is 671-3040 after the program. So again, we have been speaking about various aspects of alcoholism and drug addiction. And as I am on the program, I want to also thank the Radio Jagriti family and the Mahasabha in particular for the recent invitation I had to their graduation ceremony. I want to thank Mr. Vijay Maharaj in particular, and to recognize the work that the Mahasabha has been doing as a corporate citizen in the society here. You know, the Bal Vikas program, and it is critical. It is my opinion, although the government here has not seen the benefit and have discontinued the process of identifying the people, the students who did well and you know, in their SEA exams and so on. As a person who has studied psychology, human psychology, I can tell you that all our lives, not only children, is based on classical conditioning. That is to say, you know, if we reward good behavior, it reinforces good behavior. And if we sanction negative behavior, then we could reduce criminal behavior and crime and all of that. So that it is important that significant others, and in this case, the government and people in authority, recognize when young people perform well and do well. Because it is not only that it is not, as they argued, you know, making those who didn't do so well feel bad. No, it is to give them the incentive to try to do better when they have a point of reference, when they are able to compare themselves. So we always doing that. In competition is really the lifeblood of you know, encouraging people to do better and better. We recognize that in economics as well. So that aside, I want to come back to the whole question because it relates to substance abuse and drug addiction in the house. We need to reinforce good behavior and we need to sanction negative behavior in the household. The household, the family is the primary group, Jason. And far too often in the home, you know, we only notice our children when they do something wrong. You know, if we really look at it, you know, when a child does good, whatever it is, they clean the house, they make up the bed, they planted a plant, they watered the plant, or whatever, they did some kind act, they fed the pets. You know, we take all of those things for granted. And we don't let the children know that we are paying attention to these things. And so we don't compliment them, we don't encourage them. But the minute they make a mistake, as they will, because they're children, and they do something wrong, we come down on them like a ton of bricks. And what are we doing there? We are really discouraging our children. So at the national level, we need to bear that in mind as well. And these are some of the things that would set the framework later on. Because if we criticize our children all the time, a child that grows with criticism, they develop very low self-esteem. They tend to become rebellious. For children who have been severely punished as children, they become insensitive to sanction and there's something called self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, it's just like once you keep telling a child or that they are, you know, they are bad, they are not good, they're poor, they perform poor, and they don't do so well and all of that, you're reinforcing that behavior in them. So I thought I'd mention that because I was so impressed at the ceremony that it was done at on the weekend here at the Lakshmi Girls High School. This morning I thought, I'm so happy for the team that for the lectures, the presentation just before this live program on substance abuse and alcoholism. And in listening to the 12 steps, you would have heard about sort through prayer step principle that is in the 12-step program. That is step 11, sort through prayer and meditation to obtain conscious contact with God, praying for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Now, I've heard a lot of people speak about meditation, make references to it, but not many people, not even people in recovery, not many of them speak about how they go about doing meditation. And I suspect a lot of them, they do not know how. Let me say this, I'm not any expert, but yes, I have been practicing meditation for more than 30 years now. In fact, I was a teacher for the Art of Living Foundation, and part of that coursework is meditation. So I'm familiar with the subject, and the best teacher is really experience. When you're doing something, you know the benefit firsthand. So I would like to share a little bit about that because I do practice the 12-step program myself, and meditation is one of those most important activities that I do for the day. And when you say meditation, a lot of people, first thing they think about yoga and they think about Hinduism. But I have done some research and I've realized every religion does meditation. Even in the Bible, the Christian Bible, meditation is recommended. Upon those who are interested, I can cite the references after if they call me in the program. Fact of the matter is that what is meditation? Meditation is basically giving the mind a rest, Jason. And since we were born, our minds never get a rest. Even when we are asleep, our mind is still going mile a minute in dreams because we are processing, whatever we experience during the day. So that the mind is never getting a rest. And, I would like to make reference to a particular author. This gentleman was the chairman of the American Psychiatric Association. His name is Dr. Andrew Weil, W-E-I-L, and he wrote a book called The Natural Mind. It has, in his book, he's looking at basically why the underpinnings of drug addiction, but he also cited, if I could condense my impression of at the end of the book, what he's saying, that he's seen so many people give up drugs and take up meditation. But he was yet to see someone give up meditation to take up drugs. And let me say this, in his book, he also illustrates that we all meditate, Jason. When you sit in your office sometimes and you let your mind go daydreaming, it's a sort of meditation you're doing. And so that all human beings, we have all gotten little glimpses of the euphoria of meditation. As children, we would go on these what we call merry-go-round. We would go on swings, and or sometimes we will spin in circles. You remember that? And then when we try to stand up, we'll get dizzy like if we were drunk. And and children will laugh when they have that experience because it's something out of the normal. So what I'm saying here is that the human mind, we all know that there's another reality that is available to us that we get little bits and pieces and glimpses of. And as children, we'd have got it from the swing and from dancing around and spinning around and so many other ways. And we would have remembered that. So that for some of us, when we took our first drink or two drinks, we remember, hey, this felt good, like that experience I had. And these will be the first sort of introductions, and encouragements to us to want to feel more. Because if one could make you feel so good, two should make you feel better. Only thing, by the time you reach 3 and 4, you're no longer feeling better, you're getting sick. So meditation is quite natural to the human mind. And what it is, as I started off by saying, it is really to give the mind a rest. And in this day and age, you are familiar with computers, Jason. Very often after you have been to several web pages and so on, several sites on the internet and so on, every site we visit with our laptops, for instance, those sites, the files remain on the hard drive. And soon enough, sometimes we will have to go in and defrag the computer, right? Otherwise, the processor will start to become slower because there's too much unnecessary files in the memory. It is the same thing that the mind does every night when we dream. The mind is going through a process of defragging as well. But there are some experiences that seem to take a permanent residence there. And meditation is one of the effective, well, the only effective way I know of really defragging the mind. Hence, when you sit in meditation, those things that grabbed your attention or is really, seeking attention in your mind all the time, some major issues and so on, relationship issues or, career issues or whatever they be, will come up. And in meditation, you learn a technique how to deal with it when it comes up. And I will speak about that before the program finishes. So that eventually what happens is the mind becomes more and more quiet. Now, we really don't, people who say they have control over their mind, that's really their ego jumping up, because the more you try not to think of something, if I told you don't think of pink elephants, guess what, Jason? In trying not to think about it, that's exactly what you're going to think about. And a lot of people who are trying to deal with separation and trying to forget the other person know what I'm talking about. So that with the mind, there's a principle: whatever you resist will persist. You understand? So that while we don't have control over the mind, we have control over the breath. And you'll notice someone coming into a trauma center, and when they are anxious, they will be breathing heavily, very rapidly, like that. And the nurses or the people there will say, okay, okay, sit down. And they will tell them to take a few deep breaths. And as they start taking deep breaths, they become quiet. So that the saints and sages knew all along there was an inverse relationship between your breath pattern and your state of mind. So if you pay attention, anyone listening there, you pay attention and you'll notice with every thought that comes in the mind, there are subtle changes in your breath pattern. And if it is something disturbing, your pattern will change more drastically than if it is something gradual. So while we can't control our mind, we could control our breath. So that anyone listening out there, you can test yourself on this. Try either breathing out and refusing to breathe in. Close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out, and refuse to breathe in. And at a point, you will see the mind will go blank, because nothing is so important now when you're struggling for air to breathe. That's an extreme example of how the breath could be used to control the mind. So this is what one does in meditation. Now, I practice meditation and I'll speak about what I do. I have found a very quiet time. The most quiet time in the day for me is the early morning. And I choose early morning because it is a good place and a good way to start the day. So in my particular case, I'll get up in the morning and I'll do a little bit of yoga, that is stretches, so that the body is settled. The little aches and pains and all of that would subside. And then I sit comfortably. A lot of people think you must sit, cross-legged like a yogi. No, that is not absolutely necessary. If you can't sit, but if you could sit cross-legged, there are benefits, because when you sit like that, you kind of short circuit the nervous system. You would find that there's yoga positions that you can cross the leg and you can actually short circuit the nervous system, that if you are angry or upset or depressed, it will change your mood immediately. You can use the body as well to change your mood, as well as you could use your breath. And that is one instance when you could do that. But if you can't sit cross-legged, it is most important to sit comfortably. So you can sit on a chair, you can sit with your back leaning against the wall, you can put a little mat under yourself, as a cushion, so you can be comfortable. And so I choose a time of day that is most convenient to me. And for me, in the morning is the best way, when, you start the day from that where your mind is in a very nice place. You take that quietness, that serenity throughout the day with you. So that's how I do it. But a person who don't have the time in the morning, they can do it any time of day. In fact, when you get adept at meditation, you can be sitting in a taxi and you could be meditating. You can be in your desk, you could be in the middle of a crowd and still be in a state of meditation. You could be in a perpetual state of meditation, but that takes a lot of practice. How long? It varies from person to person. So coming back to, choose a time that is most convenient. You need to make time, set aside time for meditation. You will not be able to do very well if you're sitting in meditation and you're worrying about running late for your job. So you need to, if you can start, one can start with 10 minutes of meditation. If you invest 10 minutes to make 23 hours and 50 minutes better, I think you have the best kind of odds. That is even better than the gambling odds and so on. So that, and over time, meditation will not only make your day better, it will make your whole life better going forward. And that has been my own personal experience. When I started doing meditation in 1992, I was working at Cora Hospital. It's a very stressful environment. Boy, and I really never looked forward to going to work, because I was stressed out even when just to think about going to work. And then I started to do meditation. And now I was looking eager to go to work. And I would stay on the job as long as was necessary and deal with all the patients and all of that. And after the job, I was able at that time to start doing these radio and television programs in addition to my job. Then I accepted a position on the board at the National Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention Program. And the sky became the limit, because I had learned how to stay with one activity at a time. With meditation, I stopped being scatterbrained. A lot of times our body is not tired, but our brain is stressed out. And especially if you're working in the helping professions, I would suggest meditation should be mandatory for you. Otherwise, most of the people, counselors and psychologists and people in the helping professions, they get burnt out, especially female psychiatrists and so on. The statistics show that. So coming back to how you do it, you choose a time that is most convenient and you choose a place. I have found it is not such a nice experience to meditate near the kitchen in the morning, because you're hearing a lot of noise going on there. So I sit somewhere where it is comfortable and where it is safe, where you feel safe. No pets coming to disturb you at that time. You need to let your people in the house, your family members know, look, during that time, I don't want to be disturbed. You put your phone on silence and you leave it away from you so that you don't even hear the vibration. You don't want to be distracted. So what I do, I also put a towel and then I put a cushion and then I sit comfortably. And I sit in the same place to do meditation every day. Why? Because the mind associates that place with an activity. Without realizing it, unconsciously, our minds develop certain relationships with places. This is why a lot of people find when they go to church or they go to the temple, they immediately go into a more spiritual space, a different zone. And as opposed to that, as I've used this analogy in the past, you will walk all over for a spade or wherever, and then there's a little cubicle in the house when you go and sit in there. It's called a toilet. As soon as you sit there, the activity happens because the mind knows that is the place for that. So too, the mind knows when you sit there to do meditation that you literally slip. There's no, it's like your vibration sort of meshes in. If you have ever been to a seminar, Jason, okay, and you were sitting in a particular seat, and then you break for lunch. When you come back after lunch, you want back your seat. If somebody else sat in that seat, you would be a little bit disturbed. Why do you have to come and take my seat? Because your body resonates with that place. There's much more that could be said about that. So, all right. So you sit comfortably. Like I said, I do a little yoga and so on before I sit to do meditation. I might do my prayers and all of that first. And then I sit there and I close my eyes and then I take some deep breaths. And with every breath you take, as you breathe out, I relax my whole body. Eventually I could feel all the weight of my body released onto the floor, onto and I'm sitting with my spine straight. And then as the body become relaxed, you accept if there's any sensations in the body, we accept those sensations. Little aches and pains, you might have itches and all of that in the knee or the ankles. You accept those. Otherwise, your mind is going to get distracted and keep going to that point. So you accept it. Then if there's any noises in the environment, the neighbor cock crowing or the air conditioning unit, you accept those as well. Because if you don't accept it, as I said, whatever you resist will persist. So you accept it. And then you bring your attention to your body, right? And you imagine the whole body is relaxed. Eventually, you bring the attention to your breath. Now, that's the only thing you have to do. So you may as well use it as the focal point. Some people use light, some people do other things, but I have found the breath to be very, very useful for this simple form of meditation, but very profound. You bring your attention to your breath and just observe how the air touches the inside of your nostrils when you breathe in. And imagine when you breathe out, as you breathe out, all the stress is leaving you and the body is becoming more and more relaxed. So you do not try to influence the breath. You just allow your body to go now on automatic pilot. Let it breathe on its own rhythm. And you'll notice all the things that you were trying to resist and so on before in the mind, the challenge you might be having at that time in your life, it will come up in the mind. But when the thoughts come, you do not try to block the thoughts. You allow whatever thoughts to come. But when the thoughts come, you bring your attention back to the breath. And you'll notice as soon as you bring your attention to the breath, the thoughts will disappear. That is basically what you do for the 10 minutes. You just keep focused on the breath. Whatever comes in your mind, you come back. You'll get distracted by these thoughts, but then you have the presence of mind to come back to the breath. And eventually, that is the practice that you will be able to develop so that once you come back to the breath, the thoughts disappear. No matter how profound they are, whatever they are, they'll still keep trying to gain attention, but once you keep your attention on the breath, the thoughts will not bother you. And if one could have a few seconds, 3 or 4 seconds without any thoughts, it would be like you went on a long holiday. Even those people listening who might have gone on holidays to escape the routine of their daily life and found that when they came back from the holiday, they'll tell you, boy, I think I now really need a holiday. Because going on a holiday could be very stressful. You're in a strange place, strange food, you don't know your directions, you have to get a taxi, you don't have your own car, you don't have your family around you, you may have to deal with a foreign language. It could become very, very stressful. So when you come back from the holiday, you are more tired, stressed out than before you left. But meditation is gradually will take one, if you were getting up in the morning all stressed out in the past and so on, gradually it takes you to a position over time that you start your day from a position of serenity, peace of mind, that quietness that you can take for the rest of your life. And Oxford University did an article some few years ago on the benefits of meditation. I would ask our listeners to research it, where they found that meditation has also health benefits to lower blood pressure. It can obviate cardiac problems. It can help you. Of course, even this morning, I was looking at some studies done where it can help you with anxiety, with depression. For people like me at aging populations, it can help you to retain your memory. Because remember where we started off, Jason, if we could defrag the mind, our processors will work a little faster. That is, our memory will not have so many unnecessary files to deal with, so that we are able to focus on things. And that is one of the tremendous benefits I have found, is that now I can, if I'm talking to you, I'm only talking to you. I could exclude everything else. So chances are I will probably choose my words a little better. I will be more focused on the subject matter. I will be more sensitive to your reactions to what I'm saying, and all of those things. It enhances a person's interactions and behavior as well, generally over time. And imagine if you have your whole mind available to you, you will make better choices, you'll make better decisions. And every single who we are and where we are in life today, Jason, is based on the choices we have made in the past. And if we have been making bad choices because of a cluttered mind, then our life would be in a mess now. And so that today is not too late for anybody who's listening to this program. You can start from today, because what meditation will do is help a person to gradually reclaim their whole ability to focus, so that you are able, if you are eating, you'll actually taste your food. Your food will taste better. You'll be satisfied with less. You'll be able to control your weight. Because a lot of people who are overweight, obese, they are so because they do what is called comfort eating. They are depressed or they are anxious, and they're using food to supplement, as medicine, and they're putting on weight. As a practitioner, a counselor, and practitioner in this field, I can tell you that. So meditation will have effect on all of those things. In fact, if anyone, when I counsel people who would like to lose weight, one of the sure things I'm going to prescribe that they do is meditation. Because if you can control your mind, like, okay, when my mind is prompting me to eat something that I know is not good for me, I have now, because of meditation, developed the ability, Jason, where I could tell my mind, hey, why you don't shut up? You understand? I could tell my mind. And, our minds could be our best friends, but our minds could be our worst enemies. And one of the reasons we are all stressed out and unhappy, Jason, is because of the same subject that we are talking about, the inability to control the mind. Happiness is really a state of mind. I'm sure you would have heard that. But what state is the mind? Now, as I say this, 99.9% of the time when I or you are unhappy or stressed out, you know what is the reason, Jason? We are either regretting something from the past, or we are anxious about something in the future, isn't it? Right now, this minute, you are in a comfortable, safe place in the studio. I'm in my office here doing this program on Zoom. None of us have any reason to really be stressed out. But just let your mind go to, boy, after this program, I have to do an advertisement, I have to do this. And immediately you'll sit right there and you'll start to get anxious. Or I have to see a patient who's coming in at just as I finish program. And then what will happen? I'm not attending to the patient yet. So the patient is not benefiting. And I am now distracting myself from what I'm doing on this program. So the program will suffer as well. You see that? So that this is what happens when we are scatterbrained, and we like to justify it by saying, we are multitasking. Multitasking what? We're being a jack of all trades and a master of none. So everything is suffering because we are not giving full attention to one thing at a time. And you would have heard me say on this program, in fact, I believe the last program I did, I cited the prescription for happiness, really. And it's a little nursery rhyme that we all are familiar with, Jason. I'll repeat it again, that the time to be happy is now, the place to be happy is here, and the way to be happy is to make others happy. And we have a little heaven down here. But how to keep the mind in the present? Happiness is never in the past or the future. Yeah, we could have been happy yesterday, but we can't bring that happiness today. And we can't go back and have that experience. That was yesterday, it's gone. You understand? But we could regret something from the past. And if you look at it, you'll see every time we become miserable or unhappy is we regretting something from the past, or we anxious about something in the future. And the truth is, we can't do nothing about the past. It's already gone. We could learn from it, and we can't touch the future yet. Even the Bible says, if enough unto the day are the troubles thereof. So that we have enough to deal with today. What's the point in telescoping the future and bringing it in and adding it to the burden of today's life? So the thing is, how to prevent the mind from the mind is like a monkey, jumping from the past to the future, to the past to the future. How to control it and bring it into the present? Well, meditation is the answer. Once you're practicing meditation over a period of time, one learns how to, at will, bring the mind into the present. So if you're driving, you just drive. If you're eating, you just eat. If you are speaking to someone, you just speak. And over time, you become conscious of what the mind is doing. So that, like I said, when the mind is taking me to chocolates or something that I know I shouldn't be having, I have that ability to say, hey, don't go there. You understand? Now, this program is really too short to describe all the benefits. I would suggest to our listeners and those who are following the program to please go. There's a ton of material online about how to meditate and all of that. Going back to the practice, now sitting in meditation, you don't need to take a clock. You can average the time, because I wouldn't suggest that a person put an alarm, because when you are in a state of meditation, you don't want to be jolted by anyone or by anything, because it is also described as restful alertness. In a state of meditation, if a pin drop, I can hear it, because the mind becomes so sharp. There are levels of meditation, so that you after the meditation, it is suggested you may want to, gradually, slowly and gradually open your eyes, becoming aware first of your body and then of the environment, and then slowly opening your eyes and spend a minute or so, in that relaxed state, and gradually come out of it. Some people prefer to lie down after for a minute, and then gradually return to the hustle bustle of living and getting ready to go to work and all of that. So that in why I sit on a towel, because again, when I travel, I can take that towel with me, and wherever I put it, if I'm in New York, once I sit on that towel, I slip into that meditative state. That's the reason. However, as I said earlier on, with practice, you can sit in a hustle and bustle of a crowd and still be in a meditative state. You can carry, because you can have the presence of mind every time you are getting distracted, to come back to your breath pattern. And it actually it doesn't blank you out from the rest of the world. As I said, your mind becomes very, very much alert. You see things more clearly. When you hear things, you can develop the ability not only to hear what is being said, but to hear why it is being said, to hear what the person hoped to achieve having said it. You hear much more than the average you would have heard before. So now let me say this, no two sessions of meditation is the same. And you are not going into meditation looking for an experience. No. As I said, the only thing one can expect from meditation is that the mind become quiet, much more quiet. And as I said, if you can get into that space between one thought and the other, actually it is in that space when there are no thoughts, one begins to experience their true nature, the self, the Atma, as we say. That is the same self that now can sit back as the witness and look at what the mind is doing and what the intellect is doing. Yeah, that is the self who says, this is mine, this is my hand, this is my head. But that is the same self who knows that this is not me. That is the self that can dissociate from the body. And when one is able to do that, Jason, all of our fears is linked to the body. What is the greatest fear we all have? We're going to die. But with meditation and really identifying who I am, the true person that I am, the soul, the Atma, that I know that the Atma don't die, and that there isn't a time that I or you weren't here in that form as the soul. And so the fear dissipates with time. When you know you are not this body, you loses the fear. And Swami Vivekananda described, he defined happiness as the absence of fear. So really, if you really want to experience true happiness, you can't get it from drugs, you can't get it from rewards, you can't get it from anything else. Those are just situational things. You will get it from knowing who you are, that you are not this body. You will also be able to remain happy when you know who you are in relation to your environment. And you will begin to realize, one begins to realize that, look, I am part of the whole cosmos. That, I belong to this universe, and the universe belongs to me as well. It will help one to gradually detach from all these physical things that are a source of stress. In psychology, it is said, me extends to everything I call mine. Well, that is true, but that is only in theory. But meditation helps one to experience that when we said me extends to everything I call mine. So everything is part of me. But I could be in it, but I don't have to be of it, And this is what I think the Bhagavad Gita, they explained that, the lotus flower, all of the roots is in all the muck and, dirty manure and all of those things. The flower is always rising above all of that. And this is how we need to practice. And meditation is the tool. In fact, there's so much more I could say. In fact, I suggested it to the curriculum development officer, the Ministry of Education, that if they should introduce meditation in schools, we will see a drastic reduction in behavioral problems in the school population among the children, especially in the non-denominational schools. It is also probably one of the things that explain why denominational schools do so much better. This is something that Ministry of Education should research, because I know this Hindu school I went to, we started our day with prayer and singing, and those things put your mind in a certain place to start the day. And that's just a small little effort, but it has a profound effect. I mean, if we look at countries like Japan and so on, they start the day with Tai Chi and meditation, even in the workplace. So these are little clues, hints that we could consider as a society and as families and as groups and as individuals. Change, if we want to see change in the world, we need to become the change we would like to see in the world. This was said by Gandhi, and I agree with that totally. If you want to give a message, become the message. So I know when we are speaking like this, Jason, time is always running out, but I want to let our listeners know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not a full discussion on meditation. I hope I was able to just provoke some thoughts in people's minds that they would go and look into, everybody's religion and their elders and their gurus and so on. They have lots of information about this subject matter that they would be able to guide them. And if there are questions coming out of it, of course, I could be reached uh, at the number on the screen 671-3040. If you are not calling from Trinidad, of course the code is 1-868-671-3040. So I want to thank you again for having me on this program. And if there are any questions coming out of our discussion, people could also I'll post this program on YouTube, and they can send me questions, comments. I'll be happy to receive them and respond. So I want to thank you again, Jason, for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and of course, thank you for taking the time to do this program. This was definitely a very enlightening program as well, too. So until next Thursday, I'm Jason Clue saying sit around for now.
Sit around.